Hello everyone, welcome back. We're back at it again with some more Monster Hunter Wilds. Sort of. So since I recently finished uploading my Wilds episodic series, I figured now would be the best time to finally get around to ranking things and sharing my final thoughts on the game. Also, shout out to one of my viewers, Diane, for making this tier list. She did ask that I keep the URL hidden, so just out of respect for that, I will keep it hidden. She's the one that did all the work, so yeah. Anyway, based on what she messaged me with, every monster with a distinct moveset was included on this list, which is why the Arch-Tempers are listed separately, but you've got both Alpha and regular Deshagma listed together. Also, the Tempered Rompapolo icon is the 10-star event version, and the Tempered Nursilla icon is the clone Nursilla from the Final Fantasy XIV collab. Anyway, I'll be doing two separate tier lists, because why not? And I'll be filling them out at the same time since it's going in the same order. The tier list on the left is based on how difficult I found the monster the first time I fought it in the full game. Now, this will cause me to rank some of the open beta monsters slightly lower due to me over farming it during the beta, but it is what it is. For the second tier list on the right, it'll be how enjoyable the fight is for me now that the final update is out and I've learned how the actual fight progresses. How the fight flows, or how it plays out. So the individual tiers should be self-explanatory. She's the one that put F/trash tier. Yes, I'm blaming the creator. I'm not sure if anything will actually wind up in here. Wait, no. Okay, there's at least one thing that's gonna go in there. So we'll go in alphabetical order. The Arch-Tempers will be done separately at the end. So yeah, the first monster is a Jarrakan. So the first time I fought a Jarrakan, it was the story quest where I had to take on two of them with Olivia. I would have to say that was A tier. The main issue with that fight was I treated a Jarrakan as if it was a Wilds version of Rajang, even though he's not that dangerous. The fight took far longer than it should have because I essentially psyched myself out. If you go back and watch the episode, you will see me playing like a little bitch. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall, I would probably say B tier. Nothing really stands out about the fight. I had to learn how to fight him for the Street Fighter collab. But yeah, even the 9-star version, it was, I think, the easiest of all three of them. Okay, moving on. Regular Arkfeld. This is one of the monsters that I farmed during beta, so by the time I fought him for the first time in the full game, there was still a chance of me carding, but I was definitely familiar with this moveset by that point. As for how I feel about the fight overall, I'd probably put it into A tier. I would otherwise put it a bit higher, but given how Arch-Tempered Arkfeld exists, I cannot put regular Arkfeld into S tier. Next is Balahara. So for Balahara, I would probably say B tier. During the open beta, he did cart me once, but in terms of once the full game came out and I was actually able to upgrade my gear, he wasn't that hard by the time I could actually fight him. So in terms of the overall fight, I would probably put him into B tier as well. He does have a mechanic where he'll make a sand pit or a sand trap if you fight him in the desert, but that's not really all that much. Nothing really stands out. Okay, next up is Blangonga. The first time I fought Blangonga, I wasn't too worried. I would say I was pretty comfortable with him. He did trip me up literally whenever he did his backstep, and getting frozen to the ground was annoying, but his moveset didn't change all that much from prior games. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall now, so there is a triple Blangonga quest. I am going to ignore that because you normally would not fight Blangonga in that kind of scenario. So because of that, B tier. Nothing really stands out about the fight. Next is Chatacabra. Okay, so he unfortunately goes into C tier, the Chatacabra tier. I'd have to be half asleep in order to struggle with the monster. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall, S tier. His overall fight, while it's not hard, how do I put it? His animations show a lot of personality, and he also eats bombs, so that's a plus. Okay, next up is Kongalala. So the first time I fought him, as with Blangonga, he was actually pretty comfortable. He did fake me out a bit though, because in older games, whenever Congalala finishes its triple pause swipe and it falls on its back, it falling on its back would cause tremor, which if you watch the episode where I fought him for the first time, you'd see me constantly blocking whenever he falls on his back. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall, I'd have to say A tier. It's an overall fun fight. Similar to how with Chatacabra, a lot of his attacks had a lot of personality, Congalala's does as well. And he also belches out fart, so got that going for it. Okay, next up is Deshagma / Alpha Deshagma. A tier 100%. He carded me quite a few times in the open beta. Because of that, when the full game came out and I had to fight him, yes, my gear was a bit more upgraded, but I was still playing extremely defensively, extremely cautiously. In terms of how I feel about the overall fight, B tier. There are fundamental issues with the hunt itself, or at least to me there are. So ignoring the fact that it has Elden Ring tier wind-up animations, the hitbox of its hardest hitting move is wonky as fuck. When I was fighting the 9-star tempered version, even though I was blocking it, it somehow got around the block and one-shot me. Excuse me? Okay. So, there's an issue with that hunt. Okay, next up is Guardian Arkfeld. I would have to say the first fight, well, first and only fight, is C tier. Guardian Arkfeld is essentially the open beta Arkfeld. It might have like one or two things missing, but for the most part it's the same. During my hunt against it, it did get a little bit dicey, but that was only because my food buff was about to run out, and so I think it took me 3 attempts to eat a meal before I was actually able to get the buff again. Okay, we're good.
Nope.
What? Let me eat. But barring that, it's easy. In terms of how I feel about the overall fight itself, C tier. Why? Because you can only fight it once. Technically, you can join other hunters' SOS flares, but barring that, you only have one attempt at it. Okay, next up is Guardian Deshagma. So it's going in the same tier as where Deshagma went for both of them. When I fought Guardian Deshagma the first time, I was definitely worried because while I was okay with regular Deshagma's attack patterns, I had no idea what Guardian Deshagma was going to do. So it was Deshagma, but more. It also doesn't help that it has defense down, but that's whatever. So in terms of the overall fight itself, the same underlying issue is there, the wonky ass hitbox, and the Elden Ring tier wind-up animations. Next up is Guardian Ebony Dogoran. For the first fight, it was A tier because I never actually fought Ebony Dogoran in Iceborne. I knew it was a Dogoran but with dragon, but I didn't actually know what else to expect. It took far longer than it should have. And in terms of the fight overall now, B tier. Nothing really stands out about that fight. Yeah, B tier. So next up is Guardian Fulgur Anjanath. So it's going to be ranked the same way as I ranked Guardian Ebony Dogoran for both of them. In terms of fight difficulty, A tier because I had not fought Fulgur Anjanath in Iceborne. That and it was technically a lot more annoying to fight. It actually makes use of the Wilk crystals it produces. In terms of the overall fight, it doesn't really have anything that stands out. It's just another hunt. Okay, next up is Guardian Rathalos. I would say the first time I fought it, it does focus more on ground slams compared to the regular Rathalos, but at the end of the day, it is still just a Rathalos. So I'd say it was pretty comfortable. In terms of the overall fight itself, yeah, I'd say it's still B tier. Okay, next up is Gogmazios, the only Elder Dragon currently in Wilds. I didn't have to lock in, it was more just a war of attrition. Yeah, I'd have to say A tier. It took far longer than it should have. Especially since I was still learning the mechanics at the time, it took far longer than it should have. Also, I am not including 10-star Gogmazios or 10-star Zoshia in here, because for 10-star Gogmazios, it should not fucking exist. That hunt should not exist. For 10-star Zoshia, aside from being able to string together more combos, it's still the same fight. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall, so I'm going to say this up front, I have a heavy bias towards Monster Hunter 4 Ultimate, which is where Gogmazios debuted. So I know a lot of people don't like the fight. Me personally, I would say A tier. While I don't really like how the final phase plays out, again, for you bias is the reason why it's going in A tier. Okay, next up is Gormagala, S tier. I didn't even have to think about that. He hits like a truck, and his rewards are kinda crap. In terms of the first time I fought him though, while it was difficult in terms of like how much damage he did, the main problem was when I fought him, it was before they added in the camera zoom patch. So for those that don't know, in the beginning, you would be very zoomed in on Gore if you were to run up against his body, which most weapons would be. They eventually released a patch that zoomed the camera out, so your screen wouldn't just be of Gormagala's cloak, whatever you want to call it. So in terms of how I feel about the fight overall, I would have to put it at A tier. Again, the for you bias is strong. Okay, next up is Gravios. I'm putting him in A tier. So the first time I fought him, I was using support hunters. Now, there was a bug with the support hunter AI where they would not go to certain areas within the Oil Basin. Where Gravios decided to run to was one of said locations. Essentially, I was fighting Gravios solo, despite having HP scale to 4 players. So yeah, that was fun. In terms of how I feel about the fight overall, I would probably say B tier, and nothing really stands out. So next up is Gypsaros. C tier. I only fought him once in the open beta, and once was enough for me to learn his moveset. So while Gypsaros lost the ability to steal items, because of that, the fight itself wasn't difficult. I play Charge Blade, which means I can block the flashes and I can punish it whenever it does a flash. The Palico would constantly heal me from poison, so there was also that, so it was just a bird version of Chatacabra essentially. In terms of the fight overall though, A tier. I really like what they did with the tail. Essentially, they weren't able to do that in older games because of game engine limitations, so to see Gypsaros finally be able to use its tail as intended was really cool. Has a lot of personality. Next up is Hirabami, A tier. The first time I fought it, it took far longer than it should have because I was stubborn about it. I didn't use Dung Paws nearly as much as I should have, and I purposely went out of my way to kill the other 2 optional Hirabami before actually clearing the quest. In terms of the overall fight itself, B tier. Yeah, nothing really stands out. Okay, so next up is Jindahad. I'm pretty sure I had to lock in the first time I fought it. Probably because it was so fucking huge. Another reason is because it had a nuke. Pretty sure it could freeze, yeah, it could freeze me as well, so first time I fought it, I had to lock in. It later turns out I didn't have to, but this was like after the fact. So in terms of the overall fight, I would probably put Jin at B tier. The fight is cool, but it takes far longer than it should, in my opinion. Also, the Nova is a bit of a letdown. You have like, what, 10 seconds to get behind a rock? B tier. Next up is Lagiacrus. I would probably put that fight S tier. He hits hard to begin with. When it came to the underwater portion, I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. I was constantly forgetting the controls. I was not having a fun time. In terms of the fight overall now though, B tier. It depends. If it's within the Wounded Hollow, I would bump it up to a B tier. However, majority of the hunts would be in the Scarlet Forest. Okay, next is Lalabarina. The first time I fought it, C tier. I really like Lalabarina's design, like the concept, the idea put behind it. It's just, it's very squishy, and even if you do get paralyzed, you're not put in any real danger. It doesn't hit that hard. Now in terms of the overall hunt itself, I do like it. So A tier. I just wish it hit a little bit harder or could capitalize on paralyzing you. Okay, next is Mizutsune. The first time I fought Mizutsune, I didn't quite lock in, but seeing it go into Soul Seer mode definitely threw me for a loop, so I'll throw it into A tier. In terms of the overall fight itself, A tier. I wish his hardest hitting move wasn't the tail slam. I know, it just feels really off. But yeah, the Soul Seer mode is cool, the way it triggers is cool, the fact that blue bubbles come out of nowhere, kinda bullshit, but I can overlook that, so yeah. Okay, next is Drusilla, another 4U monster, C tier. Based on what I can remember, and again, this was like, what, a decade ago? I don't think it actually gained any new moves. It might have gained a new combo where it can string together certain moves, but those were still old moves. So for the first fight, for me, was quite easy. In terms of the overall fight though, B tier, nothing stands out. 4U bias did not save it here. Okay, next up is the Final Fantasy collab Clone Drusilla. I would have to rank this as A tier, mainly because I kept trying to block the fucking lasers, which I could not since I didn't have guard up at the time. In terms of the overall hunt, I would say B tier. Like, there is a coolness factor to it, but when you also factor in that in Omega, it is the DPS check. You have to kill it, and it doesn't like to stand still. Next up is one of the new cephalopods, New Udra. The first time I fought it, I would say I was pretty comfortable with it. Since I play Charge Blade, I have a shield to block the flamethrower, so it was pretty chill for me. In terms of the overall fight though, B tier. There's an issue with the fight. So back then, New Udra would only show up in the Oil Well Basin during inclemency. Now it can show up in the Wounded Hollow, and it can show up in the basin outside of inclemency. However, New Udra is an octopus covered in black oil that will light itself on fire. Covered in oil, on fire. I just described the Oil Well Basin. I have a really hard time tracking this monster visually when I fight it in the Oil Well Basin. So that's why it's C tier, because I have a hard time actually seeing where the hell it is. Okay, next next up, Omega. I'm just gonna do Omega and Savage Omega at once. S tier. I had to lock the fuck in. I should not have to explain why. So in terms of the overall fight itself, given the power creep, Omega is probably A tier for me. A lot of people might not agree with that, but whatever. In terms of Savage Omega, B tier. I still think it's a bit too finely tuned. Even with the power creep, it can go either way. Now, there is a caveat with this. Currently, I put them at A and B tier. However, at one point in time, there was a bug where if you blocked Omega's giant fuck off laser, it might bug out, and instead of doing Stalwart Guard, it would just do a regular block multiple times on repeat until either you run out of HP or you run out of stamina. Yep, okay, that's bullshit. If that bug is still there, C tier. Since I haven't seen it since Tell Update 4, I am keeping them at their current tier. Next up, Clemetrice. If I recall correctly, the first time I fought Clemetrice, I think I did struggle a little bit. Like, I wasn't at risk of carding, but it definitely wasn't turn brain off, go ham, as it was with Chadacabra, so B tier. In terms of the overall fight itself, also B tier. It's just a giant chicken. That's it. Okay, next is Rathalos. So each iteration of Rathalos would add one thing to its arsenal that would completely throw people for a loop. I don't think they did that for Wilds, so I would have to say the fight was comfortable. So in terms of the overall fight, same thing, B tier. Like at the end of the day, it's just a Rathalos, so yeah. Rathian, B tier. Rathian is my punching bag. It's been that way since 4U. It just didn't get anything new. In terms of the overall fight, again, nothing stands out. D tier. Next up is Raydao. Chadacabra tier. It did not pose a threat to me. Very easy when I fought the first time. In terms of the overall hunt itself though, A tier. It's essentially a fucking railgun, so yeah, the fight itself is pretty cool. The mechanics itself, where you need to break the Fulgurite on its wings and its tail and you'll depower it, pretty cool. So next up is Rompopolo. I would have to say it was B tier the first time I fought it. It was definitely an easy fight, I just didn't want to approach it because of how it looked, so the fight took longer. If I ignored that, I would put it at C tier, but the fight did take a bit of time. Okay, so in terms of how I feel about the fight overall, I just don't want to fight it. Yeah, like there's nothing wrong with the fight itself, I just don't like the aesthetic. Obviously the devs purposely went for it, and I can respect that, I just don't like it. Okay, next, 10-star Rompopolo. This thing should not fucking exist. The fucking hitbox on its explosions are Plesioth tier. It was not fun, and the fact that I had to fight it multiple times did not help. So first time I fought it, I just didn't want to fight it afterwards. Overall fight, again, I don't like it. Next up is Seregios, aka Steve, S tier. I had to actually lock in for Seregios. So I had played Sunbreak, I had fought Master Rank Seregios, and that thing whooped my ass multiple times, especially since it like zipping in and off screen. When it came time for Wilds, in my opinion, moveset wise and difficulty wise, it's actually a downgrade. I still did get caught off guard in terms of which direction I was supposed to block for its attacks, but once I learned that afterwards, it was fine. But still, the first fight, I had to lock in. In terms of the overall fight, as a Charge Blade user, I have to say it's S tier. Once you learn what you can and cannot do, it turns into more of a dance than a hunt. So definitely a really good fight. Okay, next is Ukduna. The first time I fought Ukduna, it was actually very comfortable. Like, yes, it hit like a truck, yes, I could very much cart, but it was also slow enough for me to block it. In terms of the overall fight, I'd say B tier. Nothing really stands out. Yes, the Veil is cool, but the fact that it does have questionable hitboxes kind of balances it out. Yes, one more jump. What the fuck? So, yeah. Zuwu. S tier. There is a little bit of a bias on this one. When you played Zuwu for the first time, if I recall correctly, it's either the last of a back-to-back hunt or the last of a back-to-back-to-back hunt. At that point in time, I was just tired, like just in terms of fatigue, and I chose not to restock, I think. I had to lock in, especially when I started seeing its attacks. In terms of the overall fight though, I would have to say it's A tier. The reason why I can't say it's S tier is because it does have hitbox issues. In this case, it's on both sides of the spectrum. Its spinning attack, I believe, is missing a hitbox on one of the tentacles, and I believe it was like the forward lunge where it shoots at you with its mouth. That thing's hitbox is far larger than it should be. So because of that, I can't say it's S tier. Okay, next is Yankutku Sensei, A tier. Yankutku in older games wasn't that difficult. It was a step up compared to what you fought previously. It would just be like a slight bump. In Wilds, I didn't show it respect, and it proceeded to nearly whoop my ass. It didn't help that it was a capture quest, and it didn't help that there were like 3 or 4, possibly 5 other Yankukus in the area, but it was definitely one of the more difficult hunts that I had to do. In terms of the overall hunt though, B tier, nothing really stands out. I kind of want to put it in C tier because it is missing the Conchus. How can you add in Yankaku but not add in fucking Conchus? But yeah, no, B tier. And now finally we're at Zoshia. First time I fought it, like I would say it was between A tier and S tier. Because while I did lock in the very beginning, as the fight progressed, I realized, okay, no, I'm kind of giving it a little bit too much credit, so I would have to say A tier. It did have a few things that threw me off though, like with the whole giant wolf crystals, normally you hide behind it, nah, you're supposed to actually blow them up, so that did catch me off guard. In terms of the overall fight though, I would put it at S tier. Unironically, it is kind of cinematic. The flow of the fight isn't annoying, unlike Gogmazios, unlike Jindahad. Yeah, it's just an overall great fight. No bullshit gimmicks. Okay, that brings us to the Arch-Tempered. So for this, I'll go in the order that they were added in. So, first up is Arch-Tempered Raidao. I'd put him in A tier. I definitely was playing a lot more cautiously. I'm pretty sure I also had to slot in stun resistance for that one. Well, yeah, it was just more having to play completely differently compared to regular Raidao. In terms of the overall fight though, D tier, 100%. To me, the gimmick for Arch-Tempered Raidao is lazy. Adding an additional explosion after each attack is annoying at best, and it only got one new move. I will cut it some slack because it was the first Arch-Tempered monster. Next is Arch-Tempered Ukduna. So for Ukduna, I would have to say it's between A tier and S tier. So at first, I was thinking, okay, it's going to hit a bit harder, it's whatever. And then it nearly one-shot me in the first like 3 minutes of the hunt, so... Fuck. Holy fuck. At that point I was like, okay, no, I need to actually pay attention. I think I'll put it in A tier. In terms of the overall fight though, I'd have to put Arch-Tempered Ukduna in B tier. While it does get a cool barrel roll, the wonky hitbox issue that it had is only made worse in its Arch-Tempered version. Now the only reason why it isn't in C is because if you manage to get Ukduna out of water, you don't have to worry about the bullshit hitboxes. Okay, Arch-Tempered New Udra. S tier. I was very worried about this fight because I knew its oil explosion could one-shot me. So on top of bringing adaptability, I also thought it in fire res. In terms of the overall fight, however, Arch-Tempered New Udra does suffer from the same issues that I had with regular New Udra. It is covered in black oil and on fire in an environment that is also covered in oil and on fire. However, the changes made to its moveset make the fight fun enough for me to overlook the fact that I can barely see the damn thing. So in this case, Arch-Tempered New Udra goes A tier. Arch-Tempered Jindahad, definitely S tier. The first time I fought it, I definitely had to lock in. It hits a lot harder, it moves a lot faster for some reason, and its nuke goes off in a fraction of the time, so yeah, I definitely had to lock in for that. That said, the overall fight, because of the increase in speed, it didn't feel as much of a slog, so A tier. It was still annoying to have to go through the zones, but there wasn't a moment in the hunt where I was like, okay, I'm waiting for it to do something. It was, I am constantly dodging shit, or I am constantly attacking it. Last but not least, Arch-Tempered Arkveld. Okay, it goes without saying that the first time I fought this fucker, I had to lock in. It's also the only time where I had to go out of my way and slot in guard for my weapon to be able to properly block a monster. If I didn't bring guard, I could not block its full combo. In terms of the overall fight, it is a very rewarding fight to learn. As a Charge Blade player, you learn to not counter everything, you just block multiple times, and then when it's done, then you counter. It's just a great fight. And yeah, that's my tier list for how difficult I found a monster the first time I fought it, as well as how I feel about the fight overall after Tell Update 4. Okay, this took way longer to finish editing than intended. That aside, overall, I'm pretty happy with the roster and the difficulty of the hunts in Monster Hunter Wilds. Obviously, Wilds had a very rocky start in the beginning, and it's unfortunate that it took so long to get many of the issues fixed. But we got there in the end. Let's just hope Capcom doesn't drop the ball again with Descendants. Anyway, that's going to do it for me for now. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.